when racism rears its ugly head, you need to be one of the first people to be going, nope, you don't need to be the last. You need to be one of the first people to be stamping it back in place and making sure that shit is bolted so that nobody can come and try that again. Or they get fired. Hi. Hey, get fired. Hey, I am Tristan Fynn-Aiduenu. I am a writer, director, and theatre maker, and this is how I make my numbers.
Making numbers.
So I am a writer, director, and theatre maker. I say theatre maker because I don't feel like I just have to keep myself to just writing and directing, even though that is a bulk of what I do. I am open to making theatre in a variety of ways. I am South London born and bred, all day, every day. But my heritage is fully Ghanaian. Specifically, I'm a Fanti. My mother's side is from Apam, and my father's side is from Salt Pond and Cape Coast. So when I say I'm a Fanti fool, I'm Fanti, deep. Actually, my mum and my dad were very into literature and stories, but they weren't artistic makers in that way. My mum worked in a housing office, and so did my dad, actually, for quite some time. But they really instilled me with this love of storytelling in general. And even before I even started thinking about doing theatre, I wanted to be a video game designer, which I still do. That's not gone at all. I adored stuff like Tekken, and I adored stuff like Soul Calibur and Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. I'm from that period of gaming when PlayStation was and still is the best thing ever made. I fell in love with the variety of characters that were available in all of these games, and how every character seemed to have their own story, and that really, I don't know, that just really excited me to know that everybody has their own journey, and it's filtered into my work quite a lot. In that I love work where there are characters and they all have their different rating within the story as such, but they all have their own individual journeys, and how everybody's linked somehow in this 6 degrees of separation, and I love that. There's a magazine called IGN. Those of you that know of IGN, and I wanted to get work experience there, but they were fully stocked up. And then there's another space called GameSpot. I wanted to get some experience there, fully stocked up. So I was like, well, I might end up working in the kitchen or at the school for year 9 options, and I said no. One of the things that I remembered was this theatre company called Dream Arts Youth Charity, and they were still looking for people to do work experience. And I was like, do you know what, if I can't do the gaming stuff, let me do something I actually like. So let me look at theatre. So I did theatre with them, and it was kind of after that I was like, oh, I might want to change, actually. I might want to change and do something else. I've been very inspired of certain plays, like obviously Little Baby Jesus, which I ended up directing, which is the play that really opened up my mind to not just having theatre about people like me, but also the way in which I think and which I write is valid for theatre too. The way in which I want theatre to pop up on stage is valid. So those sort of plays as well, a lot of Black British playwrights like Arinze Kene or Bola Agbaje, Debbie Tucker-Green. I'm very influenced by them. I'm very influenced by some African-American playwrights as well, like Marcus Gardley is one of my favourites of all time. Marcus Gardley, Lynn Nottage, obviously, Katori Hall, August Wilson. I'm really inspired by their ability to play with form and poetry and soul. Everything about them feels so soulful. I'm in love with soul. It's been, and it still is, a journey balancing my imaginations and melding it with a playwright. Because a playwright had their own imaginations when they wrote this play, but there was a hope, at least I hope, that there was a trusting of whoever takes on this play should acknowledge that imagination and then come and bring forward their own. You will know Katie Mitchell. So Katie Mitchell is one of the most renowned directors that this country ever has. She's not dead. Ever has. And one of the things I remember she once said to me was, a text is a text. It's beautiful to read. It's full of ideas, but a text is essentially a text. You're plugging into a text with you, with the actors, with everybody. You're plugging in to create something together. And the production is what you're creating. You're not just creating the play. You're not just restaging the play. You're creating a brand new production each time when you come in and plug into something. So that analogy has stayed with me in that, of course, I need to always think about what does the play need and what is it trying to say, and making sure I honor that at all times, alongside where my imagination was when I read this, what sparks me, because I can't really do work that I don't find a spark in my imagination or in my soul. And that doesn't mean that the work isn't good. It just means that it's not for me to come and do, but I need to respect and honor and love the imagination I've been given, and feel like it is worth adding to it too. It's worth connecting with it, and like, as I said, together alongside with the actors' imagination, because it's not just about me and the play. It's about the actors. It's about the sound. It's about lighting. It's about everybody's imaginations coming together. And we are going to have to compromise in lots of places. And I've had to compromise as a director. Actors have had to compromise in many different ways. But we are coming together to compromise, but ultimately create a production that we are all both proud of and feels like has a legacy past us. Feels like it wants to say something to an audience past us, past our egos, and that can really live for time in an audience's emotional and imaginative memory. First and foremost, when I am creating a piece of work that's by a black playwright or with a black majority cast, which is everything, most of the time. This is going to sound controversial. I'm not thinking about black joy so much. I would like to believe I'm a joyful person, and I know that I can bring joy, and I want joy within my room. But I'm not specifically trying to cultivate a space of black joy. What I am trying to cultivate a space of is of black liberation. And that is something that titling I want to give to the playwright Dominic Morisseau, who has got a play on called Skeleton Crew coming up. Hey. She wrote about the facts of sometimes when we say the words black joy and black trauma and all of it, and these very clear, quick sound bites, they don't give us the opportunity to find complexity in between those things and around those things. And I'm very much about that. I'm very much about black spaces that allow black people to feel free and to feel heard, felt, and given them space to imagine. And what tends to happen is because they've now had the space to be free and imagine, they then feel joyful. That's what tends to happen. Or they feel like their traumas, which also has place here too, if it links to the work, their traumas feel like they don't feel held back by them. In fact, they feel like they want to discuss them. That happens quite a lot, actually, where because the space is so free, people actually do want to discuss what's happened to them. And they do want to discuss some things that they feel like would be important to say in this room right now. And there is something spiritually therapeutic about that. I am not in the business of trying to make white people feel comfortable. And I am not in the business of trying to pander, trying to always teach. I feel like that is a very Eurocentric mindset, and I am on an Afrocentric mindset. I want to focus on what black people need, and what we want and what we didn't ever get to have. I want to focus on that. But I would also say, if you were a white or non-black director, alongside asking what is it that black people would want in these rooms, and I don't think that's a bad thing to do. If they don't want to answer you, I think that's cool, because we've had to do a lot of teaching, but asking the question anyway. And I think it is understanding that your room has to move from a Eurocentric room, a room about you, to an Afrocentric room. if you're trying to make work with and for black people. That is if you're trying to do that. I am not interested in talking to you if you're not trying to make work for and with black people in that way. This as in, you can do that, but this conversation isn't about you. This is about, if you are really saying that you want to be about it and you want to be about black people, you need to move your room from a Eurocentric room to an Afrocentric room. And part of that is starting a conversation. I cannot speak for all black people and for what they specifically need, but I can speak for actually being listened to and being heard and being asked the right questions. And just listening, and then when you've listened, making the appropriate moves, making the right moves, making sure your room is right for black people and they are supported in that room. Racism, as we've seen very recently, has a very horrible way of creeping its head into everything. It's heads, because racism isn't just one head. It's many heads of a many-tailed monster. So if you're going to have us in your rooms, and you really, and specifically what I'm trying to say is, if you're really saying that you're about us, you need to be able to show up for us in terms of making sure the room is as safe as possible for us to feel liberated into. You need to make sure that things are in place so that racism, sexism, homophobia, all of that, as much as you think, of course I don't need to say it, yes you do. Because whilst you think that, of course, I'm trying to create a room that is free for black people, there are some people that want black people to be destroyed in your very room. There's some people that don't want black people to do well in your very room. There's some people that don't even know that they hate black people in your very room. They don't even know that they hate them. So stating things from the offset about what kind of room you're trying to run, I will always say yes to, and making sure everybody's aware of what that is. And then when racism rears its ugly head, you need to be one of the first people to be going, nope, you don't need to be the last. You need to be one of the first people to be stamping it back in place and making sure that shit is bolted so that nobody can come and try that again. Or they get fired. Hey, get fired. How about that? How are we going to make the work we want to make when every day we are reminded that these audiences hate us? How are we going to do that? How do we fight that? And one thing is understanding that the West End has a huge responsibility. A huge responsibility for, if you very much aware, you are aware of why it's taken this long. We should have been here ages ago. But you know why it's taking this long. It's taking this long because of racism, because of sexism, because of misogyny, because of homophobia, especially against black people, especially against darker skinned people. You're aware that it's taken this while for a reason. So where is the things in place when you know we're going to be on those stages? Or is that too much work for you? Why is that too much work for you? Why is that too much work to think ahead? Because we always have to. Do you know how many times that when black people are going on the West End for whatever reason, they have to meet up with other black people and be like, right, okay, cool. So this is probably what's going to happen to you. How many times have we had to do that? And that's not going to stop. But what I'm saying is, I don't even know if you're having that conversation too. And I don't even know if you are having that conversation, what are the tangible things you are doing to make sure we are supported and safe in those spaces? At the very least, when the racist trolls rear their head, you need to be the first one to be like, no, we are supporting our black performers in this space. We're supporting our melanated performers in this space. We are supporting them wholeheartedly. In addition, we need to understand the West End is but one place, and that there has to be other places for our work to exist, to have the same amount of scope, the same amount of financial input, the same amount of artistic and professional output, the same amount of audience notoriety. You know, we need to look at, yes, there is a West End and we deserve to be there. but it shouldn't be the only place we should be. It shouldn't be the pinnacle of all of our dreams. It is but one other place, one other scale. There needs to be other places that are of scale that we would want to go to, that do respect black people, that do have spaces for black people, that are about it, basically. Now, speaking about that, we get into that age-old conversation of, oh, you know, if we all black people put our money together, we could just buy this place and da, da, da. It's not just about the one physical space. It's not about that. It's about a legacy. It's about what is legacy. What is the legacy of what we're going to be doing? What is the legacy of the spaces if we do decide to buy a space? What is the legacy of the digital spaces that we are creating? What is the legacy of these things past us? We need to think past us. What is the financial legacy and the financial gain of what we're going to do together past us? Does that mean that we need to have an East End? We have an East End. But does it mean we have an East End version of the West End? Does it mean we need to have a variety of these dotted around this country? Does it mean that we need to really be thinking internationally more and getting that help in? I don't have the answers to those things. I don't. But I do think, alongside the question of, do we deserve to be in the West End? Of course we do. We also deserve to be everywhere else. I think an idealistic future that I have is that we are in the West End, and we are in the East End, and we are in the North End, and we are in the South End. We are in all these bigger houses, getting the money to do the bigger shows we want to do, while still sending money to the smaller shows and making sure those smaller shows get seen. I want to see the fact that we are seeing a variety of stories on our stages, and off of our stages. So I'm talking about obviously site-specific work too, but I'm talking about on TV, I'm talking about film. There's a variety of our stories. I see, and I have a hope that what it is to be black and British, and the plethora of answers that question asks, is explored in a plethora of ways, and all of those ways are supported. I see a future of peer-to-peer mentorship, peer-to-peer. You know, when diamonds shape other diamonds, you know, like that sort of thing. I see that, and I see it coming. I see all of these things coming. I want and I see a future where black liberation is the goal for a lot of our work. And as I said before, black liberation doesn't just mean not doing black trauma. Neither does it just mean making sure we just see black joy. It means the plethora of stories that exist between that. And all of those are supported and funded and cultivated and grown. That's what it is. Iron sharpens iron. That's the term I was looking for. Iron sharpens iron, and we sharpen each other. Cis-het men behind the money, behind the direction, behind the technical teams, making sure that it's not just cis-het men running the thing. Otherwise, we'll be in the same place forever. Because there's only so much diversity of thought that can come from a cis-het man. Doesn't mean that there isn't thoughts. That's not what I mean. Please understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's only so much. As good and as wonderful as your heart and as your intentions may be, as cis-het, even me as a cis queer man, there's only so much my mind can go. So we need to connect together. And I also sometimes give over the reins to black women, black trans people, black non-binary people, melanated non-binary people, and seeing what futures they come up with, you know? Because my imagination, as wonderful and as crazy as it is, can only go so far. And I am aware of that now. And I'm getting older, you know? So, yeah. One thing you will know about this country is that it hates when you do something without it. It hates when you do something without the establishment. It hates you thinking independently. Because as long as you need the system, the system thrives and the system will eventually control and curtail you. The reason why I am where I am, if I have to be real with you, because I was doing well, but the reason why I am the way I am, alongside, yes, my tenacity, is because I actually had to physically find the money and start making work myself. When I did, people then took me seriously and then gave me an opportunity to do bigger things and bigger things and bigger things. So this particular advice is specifically for those that are like, oh, but like nobody's taking me seriously, like I'm not being seen. Guys, I'm going to be so specific. Go and find your play that you can do with 3 actors, okay? Find your play that you can do with 3 actors. See how much money you can make via maybe a crowd fund and hopefully Arts Council. If not Arts Council, there are other funding sources out there. Seeing what money you can make and make the show yourself, even if it was for 3 days. Even if it was for 3 days and it sells out. Even if it's for 3 days and it sells out, make the show yourself. And make sure there is evidence of you making that show. And there is something people can come and see of you making that show. There is some sort of review. And the review doesn't have to be Guardian and all that first off. Yes, we like them. They give us more money when they like their 5-star things. It's great. But there's some reviewers out there, bloggers and stuff like that, that would happily come and review a play on that's going on for 3 days. Get some of those reviews in. Get people seeing your work and talking about your work. Because what I'll also say is when it comes to when we did for Black Boys the first time, the reviewers were not nice. They were not nice. But what made for Black Boys go to where it was the audiences were hammering home hard about it. So word of mouth has, especially in our communities, as in Black communities, word of mouth is true power. So get your play that's got 3 or less actors in it. Get it on for a couple of days. Make sure you actually care about it. Put everything you can into it. Make sure people are seeing it. Make sure there's evidence of you doing it. And hopefully you have something to sell in terms of, I'm really good and here's the proof. Hopefully. Yes, we're in a time of TV and film and how that has a bit more cultural currency. Because of its mass appeal and the ability to mass produce it. And theatre is not something you can just mass produce. But theatre is something where we are also all together in a space, in a space watching something live, watching our arguments, our conversations live, and we're all together and we're all feeling it. And there is something about the fact that we need to remember theatre was an event. It's an event. It is a spiritual calling. It is ritual sometimes. It is all these things. So it's not just about political change. It's also spiritual change, spiritual growth in that. I am, as you can tell, I'm a very spiritual person. So I believe in that too.
Making numbers.